At least 2,000 political and tribal leaders from eastern Libya met outside of Benghazi today to declare their desire for regional autonomy, in what some have described as a Congress on federalism. The delegates present went so far as to announce the creation of a governing council to administer eastern Libyan affairs. It is important to understand that this is not a secessionist movement. Nevertheless, it is the starkest challenge yet to the authority of the National Transitional Council, or NTC, which, while condemning Tuesday's meeting, has also conceded that the days of a strong central government in Libya are all but over. Eastern Libya was where the Libyan Revolution began. The first protests on February 17th occurred here, the NTC was formed here, and it was the mission to protect eastern Libyan civilians from Gaddafi's forces that gave the UN and NATO their justification for military intervention. This also happens to be where the majority of Libya's oil production takes place. So while the central seat of power is a 12-hour drive away in Tripoli, control of the east is imperative for anyone that seeks to govern the modern Libyan state. After the fall of Gaddafi, as the NTC began to try and fill the vacuum created by his regime's departure, there were widely held expectations in the East that they would be rewarded for their efforts during the war, even more so than those from other regions who also took part in the months-long conflict. The ones now declaring a desire for autonomy are those who feel their expectations have not been met. Libya was divided into 3 provinces in the post-independence era, with the eastern province, known as Cyrenaica, hosting the country's economic capital in Benghazi. Though King Idris I eventually did away with the federalist structure, there remains a lot of nostalgia in the East that makes a return to that early system seem appealing. Certainly there are enough resources in eastern Libya for it to exist as a viable autonomous province, and were this movement to gain enough local support, it is hard to envision how the NTC could muster enough force to decisively put down the rebellion. At the moment, though, there is plenty of opposition to the idea of federalism even within the East itself, meaning we are far from reaching the point where conflict becomes a real possibility. Just as it is important to know that this is not a secessionist movement and that a civil war is not going to break out imminently, it is also key to understand that the NTC is not responding to this as Gaddafi would have. The Council's leaders know they do not have the power to act as a strong central authority that rules over Libya. That doesn't mean they're fond of any federalist impulses emanating out of the East, though. The NTC's new favorite buzzword is decentralization, something that Prime Minister Abdelrahim al-Keeb has been reciting often in recent days. Just on Tuesday, in fact, al-Keeb said on Libyan television that the NTC does not need a federation, but instead is heading towards decentralization. What the difference is exactly between these two terms is not all that clear, but it gives a peek into the nature of the struggle to come in Libya between the regions and the center. Al-Keeb also called for Libya's silent majority to stand up against the calls for autonomy in the East by taking to the streets against what he termed as fake revolutionaries. Eastern Libyans who support the movement will surely not take that message kindly.